Folks, I'm now here with Karyn Parker. Karyn is the Senior Exploration Geo for Poseidon. Karyn, just to get things off on an easy footing, give us a bit of a trip back through memory lane as to your career.
Okay, so I first started as a nickel geo, a student geo down in the Forestonia belt with Outokumpu, and got my first taste of nickel then, and pretty much haven't changed. So I was working as an exploration geo for 15 years. So from Forestonia I went to Black Swan. I was there in 1999.
Gee, that's nice, isn't it? To revisit that ground must have been a big attraction coming on to POS.
Absolutely, it was, yep. And also down in that southern area too, at Lake Johnson, there's lots of synergies with Forestonia. And then after that I went up to Cosmos and worked for Jubilee Mines, drilling out their Cosmos Deeps deposit, and then onto a few juniors still looking for nickel in the Yilgarn around Norseman and those sorts of areas. And then I started a family and had kids, and went and did some teaching for a while when the market turned down and couldn't get back in, and I've just come back to Poseidon. Been here for about a year now.
It's been a bit like Peter. It's been circuitous, but at some point in time, early on in your careers, you've been on the ground for Poseidon, and you've come back to it. So I think that says something about the Poseidon project. And you can rightfully call yourself now the nickel queen, because that's been your focus. It's nickel, nickel and nickel.
Yeah, it has pretty much been, yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. I'll swing us to the announcement on Monday, which in particular I want to focus on Lake Johnson, because there's a lot of drilling that's been announced there, and it's been bolstered by the government grant to support that drilling program. Do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah, yep. So we've got a program of mixed air core and RC drilling happening, hopefully, kicking off in early April. We're looking at an area that hasn't been a lot of drilling done before, so there's been new models applied to the area, and we think we've got some good ground there that we can test about, I think it's 17 kilometres of strike length of basal contact ultramafic, so komatiitic style nickel sulfide deposits, so similar to what we see at Black Swan. And most of the focus was on the ultramafic belt to the east with the central ultramafic, which has got Maggie Hayes and Emily Ann, and now recently located Abbey Rose deposit. So we're stepping over a little bit to the west, and we're going to drill test that. So we're pretty excited.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, the announcement, some of the wording was interesting. It references the fertility of the historical intersections of the targeted drilling program. Could you discuss that and what your expectations might be that flow from that?
Yeah. Like I said, we've got quite a long, big strike length, but within that, we've got various areas where we've had some historical drilling. So, for instance, underneath Maggie Hayes, there was an underground hole that continued out through the footwall BIF and into the western ultramafic, which is what we're targeting, and on that contact we have some nickel sulfide mineralisation. So there hasn't been much follow-up on that, so we're really keen to get in and check the fertility of the belt, and we have other indications further north. So just to the south of Emily Ann on the western side, again we've got elevated nickel and nickel sulfide disseminated mineralisation, and then some sniffs further to the north as well. So we've got various places where it's we've got nickel sulfides, not big intersections or anything that you can get to. They were kind of overlooked. And so I guess that's kind of flagged us to there could be something more and a lot more potential in the belt. So, yeah.
And the grades have been historically between sort of 1 and 3.5%, 4%, haven't they?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So we're seeing up to like 2% in that hole that I was talking about underground. Yeah. So.
Well, Peter, in the context of talking about the expansion project, which Peter was talking about with the increase from 1.1 million tonnes throughput to the 2.2, and producing a different form of nickel concentrate. in layman's terms, can you tell me a little bit about the prospective nature of the dirt at Lake Johnson, say, versus what's in Black Swan? And whether the issues to do with the iron magnesium ratios or the carbonate and so on.
Yeah, it's pretty much early days to work out, I guess, that sort of thing. But you are looking at high magnesium flow ultramafic rocks that have been altered to lizardite, so pretty typical of the ultramafic flows and deposits. But yeah, when it comes to the other, I guess, technical information like that, we're probably still a bit early days in classifying and identifying that sort of information. But yeah, I guess depends on the nature too of the sulfides. If and when we get nickel sulfides, massive sulfides are probably not as prone to that variation, I should say, compared to the disseminated sulfides that we're seeing in the Black Swan deposit. So it depends on the nature of the sulfides that we find, and yeah, we have to do probably a lot more work to delineate what sort of ultramafic is there, and that's what this program is actually trying to do, is to vector in and find out where these channel facies are to concentrate the sulfide mineralisation. So.
I've noted before that you've got a real strong vote of confidence from the government grant system. That's a highly contested situation, and you won that.
Yes,
at support. Do you want to just comment on that, and what was your role in that?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I guess like I was saying a bit before, there hasn't been that much drilling in this area, so we've got quite a long strike length, and that was probably the main push behind going for the grant. And luckily the government agreed with us and could see that it was drilling in a new sort of area, testing new theories. So we do have a intrusive model theory for Maggie Hayes and Emily Ann, and we've got the ore body coming up, or sorry, I should say the ultramafics coming up and pooling underneath the BIF, which has acted like a cap. And we're thinking that there could be places where the ultramafic has briefed this BIF and has, I guess, coalesced onto the BIF contact, which is our commodiotic flow style nickel sulfides. So that was our theory that we put forward, and we were successful. And yeah, so I guess my role was basically instrumental in writing up that report and applying for that.
And for the uninitiated, the people that look at that have a considerable amount of expertise. So I think the fact that, Karyn, that you're able to put together that outline and present a geo model that was found to be a positive one by that panel of experts speaks volumes for your ability to get the grant itself. So well done to you on that. On the fund side of things, and you've been back with Poseidon for the last year or so, did you get a chance to run your eye over the core samples of super high grade out of silver and gold and swan? I think there was some samples there, 15, 16% or something like that. Did you?
I have been there. They've been kept in the freezer up on site. So no, they are pretty pristine and they're beautiful. And I remember them from 20 years ago. They stand out in your mind. Yeah, and the coarse pentlandite in it, and yeah, they are pretty special to see. It would be nice to see that again.
Yeah, it would be. As a geo, just to look at that, see it, handle it, must be incredibly exciting. You always like to have some dreams. Yeah, I'm going to ask you that sort of a question. Do you think there's a possibility that once you're underway and there's additional drilling back at Silver Swan and Golden Swan, do you have some models that predict some additional high grade?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we've been looking at that, always looking for different opportunities, and we have got some exploration potential around the edges of the pit, and we've got EM targets that haven't been tested, and just always a new set of eyes over. There's been so much drilling that's been done there. It's good to look at that way as well. And we also have a loop set up in underground as well now. So our relationship and the orientation of the loop with the drill holes is a lot more favourable, should you say. And we're actually looking at possibly re-entering some old holes and redoing some more EM to see if it can light something up for us.
Well, it's a good thing as a geo that you're seeing additional targets, and no doubt once you're into the production phase and there's more opportunity to expand your drilling program, you've already got in mind, based on your modelling, potential targets. Look, I want to thank you for your efforts and for what you've added to today's discussions. It's been really great hearing from you, and I think you've been able to put things in a way that those of us who are not particularly technical or geo-savvy, that makes sense. So once again, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for your time.